So, Mr. Jonathan, how did you make the connection with the Social Justice Fund?
Well, actually, I think they found us through some people who formerly worked at cases in the sector, and we are very grateful and fortunate that they reached out to us to acknowledge the work that we've been doing in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and with you guys with cases, I know you guys are based in downtown Brooklyn off of Lawrence Street.
Yes, we are.
And I know you guys do a lot of work for folks who are experiencing mental health conditions.
Absolutely.
How do you think this support from the Social Justice Fund will really help amplify the work you guys do?
Oh, it will absolutely help amplify the work. Clearly, the grant will make a huge difference in the work that we're doing. I mean, I think if you work in a not-for-profit, if you run a not-for-profit, you're always working on the margins. The government doesn't pay for everything, so any opportunity to receive funds to help shore up services are greatly appreciated. So we greatly appreciate what we're being given, gifted. And I think such a prestigious fund, really helps elevate and amplify the work that we're doing in the city. Really important work around the criminal legal system and supporting people, vulnerable people who need help in dealing with issues.
Yeah, and I know especially within nonprofits, there's so much instability when it comes from support from the city. It's almost like we're working with our hands tied behind our back in a great regard.
And there's a lot of vagaries associated with the political winds. I mean, you could be funded one day, and if the political winds shift, then you could lose your funding. If there is a pendulum shift in terms of what people feel and think about criminal justice, it could adversely impact the work that you do and how you operate. So it's a pretty dynamic environment to work in. Tremendously rewarding, but immensely challenging.
Yeah, and I guess within those challenges, how have you sort of seen the headwinds sort of change over time, in your experience working?
Well, it's interesting because I've been in a role as CEO for 2 years, and I feel like I come from another sector. I spent a lot of years working in child welfare, but I've always kept an eye on the criminal legal system sector, and there was tremendous momentum. There were tons of tailwinds pushing legislation through, really moving the work forward. Now that seems to have dissipated. The headwinds have now been pushing back. Slowly, you're seeing a lot of impetus to erode some of the changes that have come via legislation, just attitude. So I think when you look at it historically, this has always been the case. It's been you make great strides and progress from a legislative and advocacy standpoint, and then the dynamic is that the other side pushes back, and sometimes those things are eroded. So we are in a time, I would say, where we're fighting to maintain what we have gained, because there are tremendous headwinds.
Yeah, and I guess with that, how do you think as a city we can sort of get back to the space we were when we saw that forward change pushing us forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, people are obviously concerned about crime. They're concerned about quality of life in this city. But I think we have to be clear, the data and evidence bears it out, that you're not going to lock your way up out of some of the issues that, our city is dealing with. And it's really going to require us to take a holistic approach to criminal justice and public safety. And if you don't realize that the work is going to involve more than just locking people up. It's going to entail investing in people and communities. We're going to walk down that same path that led to mass incarceration. I'm a Brooklyn kid. I grew up in the city in the 80s, and I know what it was like when there were so many black and brown kids just bursting out of the seams in the criminal legal system. And we don't want to go back to that. So the work is holistic, and it really involves us doing the work that we need to do to deal with the root issues that contribute to some of the crime and the things that we deal with in the city.
Yeah, one thing I know well about nonprofits is that if you have someone that you work with and they work with all, you stay with them. You stay connected, you stay locked in with them.
It's like any relationship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you develop trust. There's a therapeutic alliance that's formed, and people tend to stay with who they trust. We live in a city that's great, but it can also be dangerous. Yeah. And you need providers, you need support, you need people that you can trust and that you can believe in, and that will be there when you need them the most.
Yeah. And within the social justice front, there are some other organizations who are being honored tonight here at Barclays Center with you guys. Just how at Cases have you guys really made collaboration a big part of what your mission and goals are?
Well, I can tell you, our sector is pretty unique and pretty insular, and I'm talking about the criminal. We use the term criminal legal system. We don't think there's anything just about this system, but the sector is pretty insular, and I think many of us in the sector have made strides, particularly this new wave of Black and brown leadership in senior positions, to really try to stay connected, to recognize that there is some friendly competition for contracts, but we are all in this together. We've got to support each other if we're going to be successful. If one organization is struggling, if one organization is attacked, then we're all attacked. And I think we're making efforts. I don't know all of the organizations. I know we work closely with Osborne. Osborne is a sister organization of ours, but always looking to meet new folks, new EDs, new directors, new CEOs, and really try to build alliances and let them know that we can all sort of support each other and move this work forward.
Yeah, that point you made about like Black and brown leadership really struck me well, because I always think of when people like us who come from the environment, who come from New York, and these places really are in a position of leadership, you can sort of like guide things to where it should be, as compared to if someone who doesn't know the lay of the ground in that way, they may not have the same perspective that someone who is in it would.
Well, that is the value of diversity, right? DEIB isn't just a catchphrase, right? When you bring diverse perspectives, unique experiences, different experiences to the table, you not only bring something that wasn't there, you enrich the organization, you bring new ideas. So it is a value added to the work that you're doing when you can have this. It's more than just something to say. So I think now that you're starting to see more of that, and I think post George Floyd has really created tremendous opportunities to move the work forward for those of us who are in these leadership positions and to occupy these roles. We have to seize the time, and we've got to lean in and really stay focused and do what we can to really move the needle forward, do our part.
Yeah, like I don't want to have you jump too far ahead, but like now that we're heading into the back half of 2024 and starting to sort of like zoom toward 2025, what's going to be some of the big goals that Cases has as far as like things they want to accomplish before the year wraps?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we've done more work in the advocacy space. So we've been heavily involved in the Closed Records campaign. Many of the campaigns that involve moving the work forward for people. We're involved in Clean Slate. And there's a couple other campaigns that I can't think of right now that we're involved. So we're leaning more into the advocacy space. I actually sit on the Littman Commission, which is the commission designed to study the closure of records. So from a Cases standpoint, we're hoping to really be part of the recommendations that are going to come out in the fall to the mayor and his administration as with respect to what we should be doing with records, and do our part with that. And then, in terms of services, we continue to grow. We have a pretty robust behavioral health continuum. We provide services in every borough in the city. We are opening up a new Bronx clinic, a new Bronx office where we have a continuum of behavioral health, youth services. So we just want to continue to lean in and do the work in a concerted, affirmative way, and continue to support the people that we serve, and do our best to add value to the sector.
Yeah, and with the Social Justice Fund, they've sort of taken on a lot of different aspects of New York City over the years, and now with the big focus on criminal justice reform, it feels like, especially with as you mentioned earlier, the headwinds sort of starting to go back the other way, it feels like this kind of thing can really sort of help sort of like stem the tide to a certain degree. Yeah,
well, I mean, listen, if you study the history, this is the way it works. I mean, you anytime there's a push, the headwinds, people rally, right? You find allies that you never knew existed. So we also push back against that, and alliances that previously weren't there are now there. So we're really grateful for the fund. We're really grateful for the work that they have been doing, and we're honored to be selected to get this grant and to be recognized. I think it'll just continue to bring us together. I'll get the opportunity to meet some folks that I don't know, and hopefully collaborate, form some connections, and continue to just push the work forward. So, yeah.
And as we wrap up, is there anything that I missed that you want to put special attention to?
No, I think just thank you for the opportunity. We love Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn kid, born and raised. So, always shouting out Brooklyn. And it is an honor and a privilege to be in this space. And we're really grateful that the work we're doing is being recognized, and it really affirms that for us. And we're excited about 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Mr. John, you guys are receiving the fund, the donation from the Social Justice Fund. How do you think that will sort of help build on the work you guys do?
It's huge. We're incredibly excited to be selected, and I think the particular interest in workforce development is huge for us. We support a community of folks that are re-entering the community and coming back home, and to be able to provide them job training, but job placement services is a huge support in their integration back into the community.
Yeah, one of the things I always think about, especially when it comes to sort of folks who are coming back in the community, there's a sort of stigma attached to them. Like anyone who has a record, it's like, oh, I'm going to look somewhere else. I'm going to do these kind of things. I'm going to look these other ways. How do you think we can sort of go about reversing that to a degree?
They're people who are looking for a job, people who are looking for a chance to contribute meaningfully to society, and that want to be, active and full members of their community. So at the end of the day, employers are looking for employees and folks that can do the work, and this is a group of folks that's ready, willing, and able to do that work.
Yeah, and with the money, especially in New York, nonprofits I've talked to Mr. John about it, like money is tight, like resources are tight, headwinds sort of like go back and forth. How do you think that a donation like this could sort of help you guys amplify and maximize what you do?
It's huge, and it's a big support for us, and that's why we're incredibly grateful to be here. I think, for us, it allows us to continue to serve more people and expand our services. Job training and workforce development work is tough, and sometimes can be difficult for the folks that we serve because of the negative views or biases that we see from certain employees and certain folks. And so from our perspective, any support that we can get to, erase that stigma, fight back against that stigma is huge.
Yeah, and I guess especially for the folks you serve directly, I know for a lot of them, like there's like we mentioned the negative stigma. So how do you go about sort of like uplifting them in the immediate work you do, just as far as the day-to-day where it's like they may feel as if they're not at the place they want to be? How do you sort of get them to where they're more uplifted, they feel more positive about the direction they're going?
It's a multi-pronged approach. I think it's also, our policy and advocacy work in working with elected officials, community members, and trying to educate folks on exactly what this is and what this means. And I think for the folks that are coming back home is providing that support and a space where, they can practice those interview questions, a space where they can meet employers and get an opportunity to get someone who is going to help them on that job coaching journey. At the end of the day, there is no magic switch, and we know that folks may need some support as they come back into the world of work. And so, for us, that's what it looks like. It's meeting people where they're at and supporting them and making sure that we're a part of that with them.
Yeah, I know one big thing about this kind of work is collaboration everywhere you turn. So how are you guys able to sort of like collaborate, make new relationships, and sort of like be able to, if there may be something you can't immediately reach, someone who can sort of press that button and push you in that other avenue.
That's what we're always looking to do. I mean, if we can't get it done, it's about finding someone in our network or community of folks that can get it done. At the end of the day, we're all serving the same population. We're all trying to support the same folks that are coming home. And so from our perspective, this happens a lot. We'll talk to an employer and they'll say, it's great, you've got 2 people, we need 20 people. And so how do we call one of our sister projects or, even one of our partner organizations who can help meet that need? From our perspective, it's if we've got an employer or someone who's ready, willing, and able to engage with us, how do we keep them engaged? And in many ways, it's about, reaching out to our partners and making sure that we keep them in the community.
Yeah, I know one of the things you guys have on the site is that it's just beyond just work at living wages. It's in a way that you're not just like, for someone who is just coming back home, they're not in a situation where they're being underpaid or being treated poorly at work. How do you think the sort of emphasis on living wages, especially in a city like ours where it's so pricey, things are so they fluctuate so much, how do you think that emphasis on living wages helps your clients to really sort of get to the next step?
Yeah, I mean, and going back to that multi-pronged approach, it's about advocating for our folks and making sure that, one, we're targeting employers who are paying that wage, that we're creating those partnerships for the folks that we serve. And it's also around, helping folks talk about that transferable skills and getting to the next place. And so sometimes we understand that a job may be transitional in nature or a stepping stone for something. And so staying engaged with them throughout the course of that, we do a lot of follow-up with our folks and a lot of opportunities for them to engage. It's not just about helping them get that job, but it's keep that job, and then how do you turn that into something else as you start to grow.
Yeah, and just sort of like zooming ahead of that just passed tonight with the donation you guys are receiving. How do you think you'll be able to sort of like take that and then be able to sort of push yourself in a new direction?
We take a very holistic approach to, our reentry work. And so we not only provide workforce development services, we provide housing supportive services for folks. And so we do workforce development services inside of our transitional housing and supportive housing units. And so in many ways, I think this helps us continue to provide that kind of holistic and wraparound approach. It's not only that housing support, but it's also family supportive services. We understand that, being able to provide for your family, being able to provide for your child is also huge. And so, for us, it is one of many things that we're able to do with an opportunity like this, is give folks the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to their families, to be in that kind of world of work, and to continue to grow.
Yeah, like when you said housing, like a bell just went up in my head. So like, I guess I'll keep it to one housing question, just especially now with like voucher access is so limited. It's like there's inconsistencies about who's eligible to get vouchers, who's able to get supportive housing, things like that. How do you think that you guys are able to really sort of like for the clientele you have, just make sure that they're in safe places, so that way they have that big need of housing, and then they can take that once they have that need addressed, they can sort of like advance to everything else too.
It's one of the many needs that folks face when they're coming back home, but in many ways it's one of the most important ones. If you don't have a place to lay your head at night, if you don't have a place where you feel safe, you may not succeed at work. It may be difficult for you to get to work on time or to have a good interaction with your coworkers. And so it's part of why we're so excited to be offering something like that, is we understand that if we're able to provide that housing support, that it could set you up very well for the next thing that you need to do. And it's also a support service. You may be off on your own with a good job and buying your own home, or you potentially, maybe moving into an apartment that isn't a transitional apartment. And so from our perspective, it's around trying to set someone up to succeed and making sure that we can check off as many things as we can that are supportive so that they can succeed at that job, they can succeed at the stuff that they're trying to do.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, is there anything that I missed that you want to put special attention to?
No, we're incredibly grateful for the opportunity and really excited about the partnership. And so, thank you for this election, and we hope to be doing, more work in the future.
Thank you, boss.
Awesome. Thanks.
Appreciate it. So, Mr. Aaron, you guys are receiving a donation from the Social Justice Fund. How does that feel, and how do you think it'll sort of help build on the work you guys do?
We're deeply grateful to the Social Justice Fund. I think the work that we do is critically important. Brooklyn Workforce Innovation provides job training opportunities to vulnerable New Yorkers who are jobless or unemployed and looking for a career, and we meet them where they're at. That's the full community. So that includes some of the most vulnerable among our neighbors, which sometimes are folks who are returning from prison or jail, and to be in sort of community and partnership with the other grantees who do outstanding work is a testament alone to the work that BWI is doing. The money is also appreciated. And I would also add that it's not just the funds which are critical to supporting our operations, but the opportunity to sort of align ourselves with the Social Justice Fund, with the other partners at the Barclays Center. Yeah. Brooklyn's the center of the universe, and Barclays Center is the center of downtown Brooklyn. The opportunity to be in front of so many of our neighbors, to talk about our programs, inform them so they could take the information and opportunities back to their family members and neighbors is huge for us, and so we're deeply grateful.
Yeah, one of the things that I always think about when it comes to like nonprofit work is like collaboration. Like, I was talking to John earlier, like, like you do something, but someone in a different organization covers a different avenue, and you guys are able to come together, really build and climb the ladder together. How do you think that collaboration will sort of help you guys out at BWI?
I mean, for over 2 decades, we've been playing nicely in the sandbox with our neighbors and with like-minded organizations that put fighting poverty and fighting racial inequality and social justice paramount. So we're delighted for those opportunities. It's, the work that we do is hard, and it got really segmented through COVID and the pandemic. So as we're all coming back and returning sort of to full blossom in all of our programs, we're delighted to sort of reconnect to organizations that we've had connections with in the past, but are really revitalizing those networks, not just for the senior leadership, but for the team members, for the staff, so that we would love to build a network across the city and across Brooklyn where there's no wrong door, right? So for all of our neighbors to be able to come and get the support that they need, whether it's supportive housing or access to critical benefits, or when they're ready, a seat in a job training program that's going to help them attach themselves to a career path.
Yeah, and especially in New York, there's so much instability and just sort of like there's you think the policy is going to be this one day, and then tomorrow it's, oh no, this changed up. How are you guys able to sort of like withstand all these sort of like flux that comes within this work?
I think just experiencing the city as a collection of communities and a collection of neighbors, you have to be informed so that you could advocate and support, but most importantly, empower the most fragile among us. So like, you got to keep an ear to the ground on what's going on in the neighborhood, but at the same time, you got to keep an eye on what's going on in Albany and City Hall and down in Washington, D.C. about policies that impact our neighbors. And so you got to juggle 6 different things, and sometimes you got to do it while you're dancing, and sometimes you got to do it while you're walking backwards. But at the end of the day, I think you really need to look at what matters for people, and meet them where they're at and give them an honest opportunity to understand what it is you could deliver for them and help them make an informed choice. The work is the work, and they're going to have to do it, but finding the right pathway and the right on-ramp for folks is critically important. And in the world that we specialize in around job training and sector-based job training, we want to make sure we have the right student in our class, because we're not doing anybody any favors putting somebody through training and it's not really what they want to do. You got to want it, you got to work, but the opportunities are there. So working in partnership with the other orgs here and with the folks at the Social Justice Fund creates an environment where we're spreading the word about what we do. At the same time, we're sharing information about what Drive Change does, and about what Cases does, and what Osborne does. And that is critically important, because we can't serve everyone that comes to our doors. We sure as heck try, but we just can't. Like, it's a big city, it's an expensive town, and we got to do what we do best. But knowing what our neighbors are doing and knowing what our professional colleagues are doing, I think positions us all for greater social impact.
Yeah, it feels like a holistic approach where it's like you want to cover the entire spectrum of a person, and then you know that if there's a limitation within you, I know that I can go to Cases, I can go to somebody else. And I guess within the support you're getting from the Social Justice Fund, how do you think you'll be able to sort of help your clientele with employment, finding those jobs that really pay well and pay fairly?
I mean, I think what we do every day is we create opportunity through skills-based training, credential access, and then very highly structured and supported job search and job placement activities. And while our programs are relatively short, because we're respectful that people got to pay the rent or get an apartment or take care of their kids and stuff like that, we provide up to 2 years, really longer if they're staying positively engaged with us, of job placement and career development assistance. So we're sticking with them as long as they're going to hang with us and make sure that we not only help somebody get that first job or that second job, but they attach themselves to a career that's going to pay meaningful wages over time with family supporting benefits if they need them. And that career access is critical. It's hard to get people jobs. It's not enough. You have to help them get a career. And sometimes that means not earning enough to cover everything, and that's where providing the benefits and the wraparound supports to make sure that if they're eligible for food stamps or they're eligible for a housing voucher or a child care voucher if they're parents, that we knit that all together and give them enough stability and enough opportunity to be able to sort of continue to get increasingly self-sufficient and shine over time.
Yeah, it feels very sort of fluid in an approach where it's like, oh, I can go down this avenue with you, and then you might need a city cups voucher. I can turn you to this direction.
Right. I mean, so fluid makes it sound as if it's always easy, and like we're all just all synchronized swimming. To be honest, like we like to think that we're incredibly nimble. We pivot when we can. We talk to the partners that are really good at what they do, and we try to play nicely in the sandbox and put the pieces together. But you do have to be fluid, and you do have to be nimble, and you have to navigate a lot. And I think that's what New Yorkers living in poverty are doing. And you have to respect the skill sets and the sort of resiliency that they bring to that, and try to pair them up with some of the opportunities that too many of our neighbors have not been able to access, whether that's a high quality education or whether that's a safe home or whether there's enough food, like nutritious food on the table at night each night. And so it takes more than a village in New York, and BWI is really proud to be recognized by the fund to be able to do our part in ensuring that more New Yorkers are returning home to opportunities that are far beyond those that they sort of were leaving when they became incarcerated or had interactions with the criminal legal system.
Yeah, I guess as we look ahead to the back half of 2024 and 2025, what's going to be one of the big goals you guys as an org have that you want to sort of try to accomplish before the year wraps?
I mean, we're continuing to grow, and so we'll serve about 950 vulnerable New Yorkers this year. We're looking to sort of continue that trajectory and make sure that we're not only enrolling them and supporting them, but getting them all to work. So the goal is always get every graduate to work. We haven't done it yet. We come really close some years, but we're really looking that way. And we have to keep the eyes on the prize. No one comes to us for a little bit of help. Everyone comes to us for a job and for some stability. They get lots more than that, and sometimes they get lots of things and they don't land the job as quickly as they hope. But if we take our eyes off the prize of employment and of economic stability on a pathway to economic mobility, we're not going to get there. So we're hyper-focused on that while growing. So growing without losing any effectiveness.
Yeah, it's like we all want to bat 1,000, but sometimes as long as
I mean, baseball's nice, right? You get to 3 hits out of 10, and you're heading for the Hall of Fame. We don't have that luxury, mostly because the folks that we're working with don't have that luxury. So like we could joke about it, but it's real, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can for those folks who are making such brave efforts and putting so much of themselves forward by walking into our doors or walking into Drive Change and saying, I need help, I'm really interested in what you're doing, can you help me? I'm like, you gotta wanna meet them where they're at, and you gotta, if you're not inspired by that, you might be dead inside. So, and we're not dead inside of PWI.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, is there anything that I missed that you want to highlight or put special attention to?
I don't think so. I just want to sort of express gratitude to the to the folks behind the Social Justice Fund and all the work that they're doing as a team, trying to not only support organizations financially, but really looking at like recruitment and visibility, which is not easy, and it's critical at this time. So finding the right folks for our different job training programs is really important to us. So the resources, the support, and the visibility is sort of multiplies the impact of the actual grant dollars, and we're grateful for that. And I think if more foundations had teams and leadership like this one does, I think the sum would be greater than the individual grant making, and that's what we're seeing here.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good care.
So, Ms. Kalilah, you guys are receiving the donation from the Social Justice Fund. How does it feel, and how do you think you'll be able to use this to sort of expand further?
I mean, we are elated to be receiving this fund. Drive Change has been around for 10 years, and we are a growing young organization. And so being able to receive money from the Social Justice Fund not only allows us to provide needy services to our community, but it also puts our name on the map, right? People get to know what we're doing, that we're out here, and that we're an organization that is a part of a group of individuals who really care about people who have been impacted by the justice system. And so it's exciting to be able to be a part of this cohort of folks, and I'm so happy to be able to do this work.
Yeah, and I know you guys work with the youth, so it's like I know I feel like sometimes like the young folks are sort of like, I have gray hairs, I can say young folks. So like
I have gray hairs, but I will not say that. No, I'm joking.
So it's like they sort of like are sort of left in the cracks when it comes to like services and supports. How do you think you guys are able to sort of like bridge that gap for them?
Yeah, I mean, we understand the importance of working with folks who are 18 and 25. They are young adults. We know that this is the highest, this particular population, it has one of the highest recidivism rates. And so it's important for us to tackle this particular group right now, because as folks get into their 30s, their recidivism rate increases, right? Yeah. And so the way in which we do this work is by ensuring that we are centering healing practices, restorative justice practices, knowing that our young people are more than just their circumstances, and that had they had really a first chance, they might not have been sitting in our seats in the first place.
Yeah, and I know especially early intervention matters a great deal, because like you catch someone early before things sort of spiral out of control. You prevent those catastrophic consequences consequences in the back end. So as for you guys at Drive Change, how valuable do you think it is to sort of like meet folks super early, so that way you're able to provide that help and support, so that way they can transition onto like employment and other great options going forward?
Listen, I mean, I feel like 18 years old is not early. By that point, a lot of their mindsets and the way in which they move has already been set, right? And so when they're coming to us, we are fighting against a whole other group of people who've had the ability to tap in. But I think that what we do is, as we approach our work with love and care, and really showing our young people that they have the space to dream, right? That our young adults have the space to dream, they have the space to believe, right? And that it's okay to do so. And so I think that it just in terms of like tapping in early, we are meeting folks where they are. We are saying that you have access to trainings, and you have access to individuals and chefs and those in the field that are going to help you see where you can go. But I will say, it is not an easy to work with 18 to 25-year-olds because they've had a life well before they come to us.
Yeah, feels like it's like almost like they're fully calcified to an extent. So it's like you're meeting someone, and it's like their years of life experience have shaped so much of like what they've gotten into. And I guess with this fund and with partnering with these other organizations, how do you think the sort of collaboration will help you guys out?
Yeah. Well, first off, I would like to say, what they have gotten into, right, that like their resilience, what they have gotten into is actually that skill set that can help them get out, right? Like, and help them shift and transform their lives. And so we like to tap into that and kind of like highlight that. Like, you have all of these skills. And I know that my colleagues that were here before me might have mentioned some of those things, right? Like, it is very much something, the fire inside of them to want to be able to take care of themselves, be it one of the reasons why they might have put them in that particular position in the first place, will be the fire inside that's going to shape and change the trajectory of their lives. But as it relates to working with our colleagues, first off, we're a young organization. I respect, I'm a fangirl of all of the other organizations, Osborne Cases, Brooklyn Workforce Innovations. I'm a little bit biased because I used to work under Aaron Shiffman, but I understand the work and I see the work. And I also know that people day in and day out come to the work with their full selves, as their full selves. And they care about economic mobility, care about ensuring that people have the ability to take care of themselves, their families, and their communities. And so to be a part of this collective and to be able to work with one another, to know that we can't do it alone. Unfortunately, there are more people out here in these streets that need our help. And so we need other organizations that are doing this work that we can tap into and say, put me in, coach, or like, I don't have the space, but do you, right? Or you have those particular services and I don't. Like, you know what I mean? So being a part of this fund and receiving money from the Social Justice Fund and being part of this collaborative, is really important for us because we get to lean on those who have done the work. And they've had the experiences, they can teach us, and they can learn from us as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned you worked with Aaron, and how have you sort of seen just this sort of space as far as like for young folks who have experienced incarceration, we're trying to sort of like get those supports. How have you sort of seen that evolve over time in years in the field?
Excuse me, the last part?
As far as like, how have you sort of seen this sort of space evolve in your years in the field?
Yeah, so one, it feels like people are now talking more about the individual, right? That there's a human being behind the circumstance, right? And oftentimes I think that people have a tendency to want to create a divide between someone who has been impacted, just as involved, and those that is not, right? Like we make all decisions in our life, be it good and or bad. And I think that what's happening right now, people are shining a light on the individual rather than the circumstance. And then there are also foundations and individual donors and folks in the space that want to fund this work because they understand the importance of it. And people are not afraid of it. People are not saying, they're not shying their dollars away from it. They're understanding like there's a root cause and people have gotten here for a particular reason and they want to support this particular cause. And that's why we're so excited and elated to be receiving money from the Social Justice Fund. Thank you so much, Joe and Claire. Because we need it, right? And, it's hard to fund this work. A lot of times, foundations and funders like to go with what's hot. Yeah. And oftentimes serving just as involved individuals is not always hot, right? And I love working with people who like to just push a little bit,
Yeah.
And don't care about, care about doing all the things right.
It's more like it's right. So to hell with negative
Yeah.
perceptions. To
Yeah.
hell with these people don't deserve this. Why not do something else? Like you want to partner with people who care and value it in the way that you.
Because listen, if you care, the way you show up to the work will look and feel different. I think we all have a part to play. Aaron and I and John and others, our part in this is running nonprofits that are that are serving a need in the community, right? And you have Gregg and Joe and Claire, and their part in this is bringing in dollars, connecting us to individuals. Like we all have a piece to play in what it means to really fight the good fight and really tackle racial justice, social justice, etc. And so I think that we can all figure out what our lane is, and let's move together and let's work as a community.
I guess as we sort of zoom out a little bit to the tail end of 2024 and start of 2025, what's going to be a big goal that you guys have at Drive Change that you want to accomplish?
So I told you we're a young organization. I am the first executive director after the founder. I've been in the organization for 2.5 years, and so we are finishing up our first strategic plan, which is really exciting for us. My goal is to create the next generation of talent, right? We sit at the intersection of reentry and hospitality. We train 18 and 25-year-olds in the culinary and hospitality space, and we also pay them a livable wage. We're paying them $22 an hour. We're modeling the behavior that we like to see in the hospitality space. And so what I like to do is to create more chefs and business owners and entrepreneurs. And so we started off as a food truck, and so we do have the ability to create job opportunities for our fellows and our graduates. So I love to be able to do that, and that means getting our food truck out more, caterings. Hello, if anybody wants food and we can cook it, and and then that then means I'm employing grads, right? And that then means the longer that they're with us, the longer the reduction of recidivism, right? And so that's what that looks like. 2025 means that we are really stepping into our own potential as an organization and creating more job opportunities for those that come through our doors. And I will say we also have been tackling food insecurity, and we started that during the pandemic, and because we believe that food is a gift. I mean, food is a right, and community is a gift, and we give back to our community by providing food. And so we don't have those housing, we don't have certain wraparound services like our colleagues do, but one thing that we do have is the access to good food. So we, through the spring and winter months, are providing groceries to the bedside community that are coming from urban farms, local farmers that we're supporting through Grow NYC. And so that's something that I like to grow out even more, because people should have the ability to eat great organic eggs just like I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we take it for granted.
Yes.
Can I get you to get Gregg quickly as well?
Yes.
And then we can get you all
Yeah.
to your I think the game's gonna start.
Oh, we have to
2
go.
minutes.
All right. We got to go, but I appreciate you.
No problem.
Thank you. So, Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
big night for the Social Justice Fund. How does it feel?
Yes. It's amazing. I was talking to Clara earlier today, and we're just so amazed. 4 years since we made the announcement. $50 million over the next 10 years to invest in Brooklyn, to focus on economic mobility and racial justice. And one of the things we're most proud of is actually what you've been hearing tonight.
Yeah.
Our goal is really to focus on local organizations in Brooklyn that are doing the work. And the way we find these organizations is through our network, and really find organizations that are doing things that are cutting edge, things that are scalable, things that are sustainable.
Yeah.
And Clara is very, very passionate about this particular work. As you know, she sits on the Board of Reform.
Yeah.
She's talked about criminal justice reform, but even more important, reducing the recidivism rate, in the community, and really making changes. And that's not only from Clara, but even the senior leadership at BSC Global.
Yeah.
We've looked at the hiring practices of even this particular arena. We've made changes, with the hiring practice to make sure that we're not creating barriers for individuals who are justice impacted. So a lot of the things that we're doing, it's amazing that we were able to find these 4 organizations. It's just the beginning. As I was telling, all the executive directors, we want to use our assets. So tonight, we're going to have them, sent to court. Thousands of fans that are Liberty fans that are here to support the Liberty are also going to learn about the work that they're doing. But they're also going to work about how they too can help. So it's not just, there might be individuals in the audience who might need the services of these organizations, or there might be CEOs of companies who may not even know that, based on, some of the changes in policies, that they too can, help, hire someone. And it's not charity. It's really just, it's economic mobility, getting the best of the best and really creating an opportunity for individuals just in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and with the focus on criminal justice and addressing those barriers, how do you think the Social Justice Fund can sort of take the work that each organization has done and sort of help amplify them even more?
Yeah, so we're doing that now with tonight, but also, we have 3 major events this summer. So these organizations are going to be part of that. We have we're going to end the summer with Angelie Day, and so Angelie is also a big supporter of this. Using the connections that we have, certainly to raise awareness of the organizations, and more importantly, we want to make sure people donate. Right, people continue to support these organizations, not only with jobs, not only with people that can take advantage of the services, but with also dollars. And so that's our focus, and using the sort of the network that we have. And so we've already we expanded. We helped. There's another organization called Strive. We helped expand their workforce program to help justice impacted individuals connect with jobs in the healthcare sector, because this sector is also a fast-growing sector. We've already had positive news in terms of individuals who have already received jobs, and so bringing everyone in the ecosystem together is also important to us.
Okay. And Ms. Kalilah mentioned earlier that working with partners who want to do right, to heck with whatever negative perceptions that are out there. How do you think you guys with social justice can really sort of keep that focus on doing right by New York, by Brooklyn and New York at large?
Well, I mean, it starts with Clara and Joe, and and I always talk about so when you look at the investment that Clara and Joe have made in New York City, in Brooklyn, it starts it's the teams, right? But it's also the Social Justice Fund and the social justice work, and then using their influence to also talk to other NBA and WNBA governors about this is how you can make an impact in your community. And this is, for us, it's part of our Belong Brooklyn initiative. It's part of recognizing that the plaza was a central sort of organic town square during the racial justice protests of 2020.
We belong here.
And yes, and that is why, we have We Belong Here, You Belong Here. And it's a constant reminder to the community that this is your space. And so we love programming the space, but we love having a focus on a particular issue. And so we're really excited about this, and really excited to continue raising the visibility of these great 4 organizations that we're funding tonight.
All right, fantastic.
All right, cool. All right, thank you.